Well, there we have it. Another week here. The first full week of October, and it felt like it. You know, we started the week off very nice, very warm. Chased a bunch of smallmouth on the river, caught a pile of them. Borderline UPF shirt weather, deceiving. Water temps are starting to still drop. We're in the 50s now. And then as we moved into the middle of the week, it got darn right cold. Northern Minnesota got some snow. Didn't stick, but got some snow. Here in central Minnesota, Midwest, or metro area, we got a lot of frost. It dropped into the low 30s. I don't believe we hit anything in the 20s this week, but I think I saw like 31. Close enough. And we had to bundle up. I had a lot of storm skin on. I had my soft shell stuff. I had base layer. I had socks. Wore shoes in the boat for the first time in a while. So it's just that time of year. Everything's starting to get colder and things are happening. Football practice and games are cold. The boys are bundling up underneath their pads to stay warm. And here we go. But then as fast as we say that, as you probably know, if you're looking at the forecast this coming week, yes, there are some days in the 70s. It is the beautiful state of Minnesota. That is just what we deal with. Heaters on your truck in the morning, windows down in the afternoon. It's just how we play the game. So I've been living pretty much in sweatshirts, I feel like, the last week for the most part. Pants, long underwear, all that kind of stuff. I plan to use that and utilize that stuff here the next couple weeks. So I'm coming at you with another report here. You know, we're gonna do this, and then I'm probably looking at one more week of reports. And then, to be honest, I'm switching gears and focusing a little more onto the ice fishing show scene. I'll probably still have the boat out, probably still do some fishing, but to be honest, it's going to be a little more focused on getting these shows ready and thinking about the ice fishing season. So with that, it was a super fun week. We caught fish a ton of different ways. Like I said, water temps are dipping down into the 50s. Everything's getting primo. Everything's doing what it should be doing. Dock owners are pulling their docks, or lake show owners are pulling their docks. That is a great time of year to target those specific areas. Now, I also often love it when I look at a shoreline and the docks are pulled. Now, it might symbolize the end of open water season. It might be a little bit of depression for some people, but for me, I look at that as an opportunity to go through those areas and catch a whole bunch of fish. Right where these docks have been for the last 6 months or longer, a lot of things congregate in those areas, whether it's bait fish, whether it's game fish, whether it's a structure, whether it's whatever it might be. Now these pieces of docks and shade are pulled. Water temps becoming more uniform, and a lot of fish move to the bank. So I love targeting some of these, I don't know, call it action-rich shorelines with moving baits, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, lipless crankbaits, buzz baits. I'm not going to get into the details on all that and into the weeds, because I think we got a pretty good handle on how to work a moving bait, cast, retrieve, maybe change your cadence a bit, that kind of stuff. It's going to be a phenomenal way to catch bass, pike, walleye. Everything right now is just to beat the bank, and that's probably how I'm going to spend a lot of my time on lakes here, is beating the bank. However, I wanted to touch on a couple other ways to catch fish right now that have actually put some larger fish in the boat for us, maybe a little more fine-tuned approach on how we're doing things. And that comes in the form of, you know, small swim baits, smaller applications, jig and minnows, things like that. And to start, I had this question asked like 3 times this last week about using like a jigging minnow, like a Tikka minnow from Clam Outdoors, or a jigging wrap, right? And it's a very versatile, very productive presentation to use, especially this time of year when fish start to congregate and school up. As we get further into this open water season and get really close to ice, a lot of these fish are going to start to locate in their wintering spots, whether it's walleyes, crappies, or whatever. And you can sit over the top of those fish and even make small casts with this style of bait. And it's a very aggressive presentation, an aggressive approach. You're not tipping this with bait. You're not dealing with that. You can put your gloves on and you can get after it. And it's kind of a snap motion. There's a bunch of videos out there on how to fish this style of bait. Probably worth investigating and researching and getting that visual appeal on how they're fishing this, because it is fairly aggressive. And when a fish hits this stuff, they pound it. And just again, to show you what I'm talking about, I think people get the idea. This is the style of bait I'm referencing. I'm just going to reference. This is the Tikka minnow. Just a jig and minnow. Super cool. It spins, it darts. The Tiki Minnow's cool because it's all one piece zinc alloy. There's not a plastic fin, it can't break, and that red treble hook has already been increased one size. So this is going to be a presentation you may want to play with, especially if you're in the walleye world or the crappie world. This catches a lot of fish in the fall, so check that out. Next, I want to talk about smaller swim baits and things like that. You've seen the bigger smashers and largie smashers from All Terrain that I've talked about. Those are still catch fish. I'm using the larger, the minnow baits. Now, I've been turning a lot lately, and it might be the river aspect in me, but also on the lake, I've been using the smallie smasher, excuse me, which is going to be a smaller version swim bait head. Now I can fish 3-inch baits and smaller things like that. So whether it's a sassy grub, whether it's a sassy shad from Mr. Twister, whether it's a Kai Tech, this is going to be a smaller profile. I'm fishing it on a spinning rod. I usually have about 15-pound braid to like a 6 or 8 pound test fluorocarbon leader, and this catches everything right now, from bass to walleyes and everything in between. And I'm either fishing, like I said, I'm fishing that sassy grub, I'm fishing small sassy shads, maybe even up to let's say a size 4 or 4-inch sassy shad. And it's a pretty simple way of fishing. You just take that, your favorite smasher, smallie smasher jig head, and you're just threading on your favorite swimming bait. There's a lot of variations out there. Super simple, super effective. We're not reinventing the wheel on this one. And there you go. Casting it out there, reeling it in, covering water. There's various size hooks, various size weights in these, and it works exceptionally well. One of my favorite presentations lately with this is actually going to be this smaller. I'll show you. This one's just a good looking bait. I take that sassy grub and I put it on there, and you can see the profile of this thing, which just downright catches fish. There you go. Just a small, full together 3.5-inch profile bait. I can pitch this thing into cover. I can slowly swim it back to the boat. I can bounce it off the bottom. I can jig it. I can do all sorts of things. And that's really the presentation that's been catching a lot of fish for me. I use that baitfish color head. I got that pearl body, and I'm just literally covering water. And again, like I said, I'm using about a 15-pound braided main line. I got my 6 or 8 pound fluorocarbon leader. I'm using a 3000 series Shimano Vanford. I love this reel. And I got a 7-foot medium action spinning rod. And you can just go after it and cover a whole ton of water. Another jig head that works very well, if you want to use a round style head, is that drop TG from Clam. It's a tungsten jig, smaller profile head. Tungsten's heavier than lead, smaller profile head, thin wire, awesome mustad hook, great plastics keeper. And you're fishing that in the exact same light. I'm taking that sassy grub, throwing it on there. This is about the exact same hook parameters, you could say, as that smallie smasher. Gives you that same profile. However, now you have a little bit of a smaller head. Great presentation for forward-facing sonar. We're all using forward-facing sonar, it seems like. This shows up excellent on that. You can see the fish you're targeting, throw it at it. Falls maybe a hair slower than, let's say, that 1/4 ounce smallie smasher, and I'm using that 1/8 ounce drop TG combo. One of these twos seemed to get bit, and it's amazing how big a fish will chow this right now. Looks good. Looks like a lot of the bait fish they're feeding on. It works. So a lot going on here in the week. I know we threw a lot at you. It's a good time of year, in my opinion, to honestly fish some of these moving baits. Put the gloves on, cast around. It might be chilly. Put your Blackfish air gloves on. Get bundled up, get warm. And if you could pick the time of day to fish, by all means, go out in the afternoon. It's going to be warmer out. It's just naturally the case versus the sunrise bite that we've been taught to fish all summer this time of year. Take a break, spend some time around the house in the morning, and then maybe in the afternoon, zip out onto the water when it's more comfortable and chase down those fish. So a lot coming at you. We're going to hit you with one more week of fishing reports here in the fall, and things are going to change. We're going to start thinking cold weather. Hopefully, if you got out hunting, you had some success. I did see some cool pictures of some really nice deer that were taken and harvested. Phenomenal. Otherwise, be safe out there. Have a great fall. and we'll catch you for one more week of Metro Fishing Reports. And I'll come up with something creative this winter to keep coming at you on the ice fishing side of things. So thanks again. And one last parting piece of advice. This is a great time of year to do your homework in your boat, mark your spots for ice fishing, big weed clumps, inside turns, rock piles, all that stuff that might take you more time to find when you're cutting holes in the ice rather than in your boat. So spend some time right now getting ready and preparing for the ice fishing season 2. If that's your cup of tea, we'll catch you next week.